Japan, 1645. The winter air is sharp enough to cut through silence. Inside a dim cave carved into stone, an old warrior sits cross-legged beside a candle. The flame flickers against the rough walls, dancing like a memory. His name is Miyamoto Musashi, a man who has walked through death more times than most men walk through doors. For decades he has lived by the sword, fought without defeat, and mastered the art of combat so completely that no opponent can touch him. And yet, as the final chapter of his life begins, Musashi feels the tremor of truth. His blade has conquered others, but not himself. The greatest duel still lies within. He knows he is dying. His body, once carved by discipline, now weakens with each passing day. But his spirit remains razor sharp. He takes up his brush, the weapon of wisdom, and begins to write. He is not writing for students or for history. He writes for his own soul. 21 rules, brief, severe, and eternal. He names them Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. It is not a guide for solitude of place, but solitude of spirit, the path of one who no longer depends on the world for peace. Musashi's life was forged in blood and silence. At 13, he killed his first opponent in a duel that would mark him forever. By his mid-20s, his name had already become legend across Japan. Some say he won over 60 duels. Others say more. None say he lost. But in his later years, he began to see the hollowness of victory. He understood that the true enemy was not the swordsman standing before him. It was the restless mind within. Every battle he had fought was preparation for this realization. His final conquest would not be of men, but of the self. In the solitude of Reigando Cave, Musashi stripped away everything that distracted him. Possessions, titles, even companionship. The man who had once walked among emperors and generals now lived with only a robe, a sword, and silence. But this was not self-punishment. It was purification. Through simplicity, he sought to uncover what was real. He had discovered that the more a man carries, the less he sees. And so, he began his final journey, to see life clearly, without distortion, without illusion, without fear, without... The first of Musashi's teachings pierces modern ears like a forgotten truth. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. In a world addicted to instant gratification, this wisdom sounds alien. But Musashi saw pleasure as the most seductive chain of all. The body craves comfort, the mind craves stimulation. But the more we chase it, the weaker we become. Pleasure, when worshipped, becomes a cage lined with silk. The samurai's path was not the rejection of pleasure, but mastery over it. To enjoy without attachment, to feel without need. When you cease to chase delight, you begin to experience serenity. The second precept: do not cling to possessions. Every attachment is a potential wound. The more you own, the more you fear losing. Musashi, who could have lived in wealth and fame, chose instead a life of simplicity. He walked through villages unnoticed, slept beneath trees, painted landscapes with river water and ash. He knew that the measure of a man was not how much he could hold, but how much he could release. To be free is not to lack possessions. It is to remain unchanged when they are taken. The monk, the warrior, and the philosopher all meet at this truth. To hold lightly is to live deeply. Then he wrote, "Have no preferences in all things." It sounds impossible, even absurd, yet within it lies the secret to emotional balance. The world teaches us to chase what feels good and avoid what feels bad. But that endless chase enslaves the spirit. What Musashi meant was this: remain steady. Do not allow fleeting feelings to command you. When you like something, enjoy it. When you dislike something, observe it. But do not let either possess you. Freedom is not the absence of emotion, it is the ability to feel without being ruled by feeling. Next came the precept that defied human nature itself. Do not seek to be loved or lovable. To modern ears, it sounds cold. To Musashi, it was liberation. He saw how men lost themselves in the endless struggle for approval, from masters, comrades, lovers, even enemies. The desire to be liked, to be seen, to be praised, it erodes the will like water erodes stone. He wrote, If you require the love of others to feel worthy, you have already surrendered your freedom. To live without needing to please is not to live without love. It is to love without dependence. True compassion arises when the heart is free from craving. The fifth precept: do not be guided by feelings of lust or love. It was not a call for isolation, but for clarity. Musashi understood that passion without discipline leads to ruin. To love rightly is to love without losing yourself. A man who becomes a servant to his desires becomes weaker than the one who resists them. Desire is not evil, it is energy, but left ungoverned, it blinds. In love, as in battle, Musashi sought awareness, not indulgence. And modern psychology now echoes his insight. Emotional independence strengthens relationships while dependency corrodes them. When two complete individuals meet, love becomes an expansion, not an escape. Musashi's wisdom reaches far beyond philosophy. It is a mirror held to our age of noise and hunger. He reminds us that distraction is the new sword that cuts the spirit. We live surrounded by stimulation, notifications, comparisons, constant urgency, yet the same laws of the mind apply. The moment you need the world to make you happy, you give it the power to make you miserable. The way of walking alone is not isolation from others. It is independence from need. To walk alone is to move through the world untouched by its chaos. He applied these principles to every aspect of life. When facing judgment, he reminded himself, the opinions of others belong to them, not to me. When facing uncertainty, he returned to simplicity. Breathe, move, act without attachment to outcome. When loss struck, he did not resist. He bowed to impermanence. This was not Stoic detachment, but Zen presence. Life was a wave. The warrior's task was to ride, not to fight it. Musashi also faced the truth that every warrior must eventually confront: death. He did not fear it. He studied it. In the mornings, he meditated on his own demise, visualizing the moment the blade would strike, the blood would fall, and his life would end. Some might call that dark, but Musashi knew. To accept death completely is to live without hesitation. When death loses its sting, fear loses its voice. The modern world runs from this truth, but it is the root of all peace. He wrote, "Live as if you were already dead." It was not nihilism, it was awakening. The awareness of mortality strips away illusion. You stop wasting energy on small insults and trivial battles. You speak truth without fear. You love without possession. You act without delay. To remember death is to remember what matters most. For Musashi, walking alone meant walking awake. Every step, a meditation. Every silence, a teacher. The world became his dojo, the mountains, the rivers, the wind. He found harmony not by fleeing chaos, but by seeing through it. His solitude was not loneliness. It was mastery. And mastery, he discovered, is the union of stillness and action, the calm that moves, the movement that rests. Centuries later, neuroscience would confirm what Musashi already lived. Studies show that mindfulness lowers fear, discipline increases freedom, and voluntary discomfort builds resilience. What the samurai practiced through austerity and meditation, modern science now calls neuroplasticity and cognitive control. But words do not make truth stronger. Experience does. Musashi's rules endure because they work. They shape the mind through practice, not theory. The Dokkodo is more than a philosophy. It is a mirror. It asks you, who are you when the noise fades, when the approval disappears, when the comforts are gone? The answer is your real self, the part of you that cannot be bought, broken, or bent. That is what Musashi was searching for. That is what he found. In the end, he did not die as a warrior surrounded by armies. He died as a sage surrounded by silence. And in that silence, he left us a map, a way to walk unshaken in a trembling world. To follow his path is not to abandon life, but to meet it fully. To live simply, think clearly, and act with purpose. So ask yourself, What would change if you stopped living for approval? If you stopped fearing loss? If you stopped running from silence? The answers are not outside you. They never were. They are waiting in the stillness you keep avoiding. The way of walking alone is not a rejection of the world. It is a return to yourself. When you walk it, you stop being a shadow of circumstance and become a source of light. Musashi's sword has long rusted, but his teaching still cuts through illusion, through vanity, fear, and dependence until only truth remains. So walk your path, not because it is easy, because it is yours. Train your mind, master yourself, walk the dojo path.